Country music loves to pretend that every heartbreaking lyric is just a made-up tale. But the reality lurking behind the stage lights was far more scandalous than any 3-minute ballad could capture. Before neon-lit honky-tonks transformed into massive stadiums, secret romances were already strumming guitars, reshaping the music industry, and leaving broken hearts in their wake. The 15 love stories you're about to uncover weren't just idle whispers. They fueled artistic brilliance, destroyed marriages, and forced Nashville to confront its own contradictions. Some of these affairs led to storybook weddings. Others spiraled into bitter separations, violent confrontations, or tragic early deaths. But every hidden encounter left an undeniable imprint on the songs we still hum today. So take your seat at the back of the Grand Ole Opry, tune into the drama, and remember, behind every steel guitar's wail is a pulse racing somewhere it shouldn't be. Let's pull aside the velvet curtain and meet the clandestine lovers who rewrote country music history. Johnny Cash and June Carter. A love that burned through the rules. Johnny Cash first crossed paths with June Carter backstage in 1956, and the spark between them could have powered every amp on the tour. The catch? Johnny was married to Vivian Liberto, raising 4 children, and battling addiction to pills and alcohol. Meanwhile, June was committed to fellow country star Carl Smith. What started as playful teasing, June tossing clever jabs to keep Johnny on his toes, slowly smoldered into heartfelt confessions shared on long tour bus rides. Across the country, audiences saw them lock eyes with a fire hotter than the footlights, and the rumors raced ahead of the tour bus. For 12 years, Johnny denied the affair, even as Vivian cried at home. But the truth roared louder than his signature boom chicka boom. In 1968, just days after Vivian filed for divorce, Johnny shocked fans by proposing to June on stage in Fayetteville. Their wedding became one of country's greatest redemption stories. Their union softened Johnny's rough edges, helping radio forgive his past brushes with the law and addiction. It also proved to Nashville that a man with public sins could still offer salvation and sell records doing it. Tammy Wynette and George Jones, Harmony and Heartache. To fans, Tammy Wynette and George Jones looked like the perfect country couple. But behind the scenes, they were more like fire and gasoline. By the late 60s, George's drinking was infamous. He'd disappear for days, only to come crawling home, begging forgiveness. Tammy, already wounded from a previous controlling marriage, believed she could fix him. Their whirlwind romance led to a 1969 marriage, but soon the honeymoon faded into a storm of shattered dishes and slammed doors. George once rode a lawnmower 8 miles to get whiskey after Tammy hid the car keys. In return, she reportedly tied his legs together to keep him inside at night. Yet their chaos fed their music. Tracks like Golden Ring and 2-Story House made listeners feel like they were overhearing real heartbreak. When they divorced in 1975, tabloids wept, record sales soared, and a new formula emerged. Package personal drama inside flawless harmonies, and let the world listen. Loretta Lynn and Oliver Dew Lynn. Grit, scars, and songs. Before she ruled the charts with stories of coal miners and proud country women, Loretta Lynn was a teenage bride in a cramped Kentucky cabin, struggling to keep her dignity. Her husband, Oliver Dew Lynn, drank, cheated, and occasionally hit her. But he also bought her first guitar and dared her to dream beyond the holler. As her fame rose, so did his betrayal. Instead of hiding the wounds, Loretta poured them into her songs. Fist City was a warning to barflies chasing her man, and Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' painted a picture of their messy kitchen fights. Radio DJs blushed, churchgoers clutched their pearls, but women everywhere cheered. By airing her dirty laundry, Loretta kicked open a door for women in country music to speak raw truths. Her survival anthems became both feminist declarations and chart toppers. She never left Dew, but her boldness changed country music forever, proving that personal pain could be turned into power. Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty. Chemistry that sparked legends. If Loretta's solo lyrics rattled the country scene, her collaborations with velvet-voiced Conway Twitty sent the rumor mill into overdrive. Their first duet in 1971 sizzled with unspoken tension, and DJs joked that listeners should cover their ears during the steamy spoken-word bridge of Led Me On. Though both were married, tabloids counted every lingering hug, and fans begged for answers. Neither ever admitted to an affair, but insiders whispered about late-night rehearsals stretching until dawn and hotel rooms booked under alias names. Their undeniable magic topped the charts, 5 back-to-back #1 hits, and earned them the unofficial title of Mr. and Mrs. Country Music. Without confirming a thing, they taught future stars that skirting the line between performance and real passion could sell records. The lack of proof kept fans guessing, and that mystery only fueled their lasting legacy. Sometimes the suggestion of love is just as powerful as love itself, especially with a microphone between two hearts. Hank Williams and Audrey Shepherd, a love drenched in heartache. Hank Williams once wrote, "I'm so lonesome I could cry." But it wasn't just poetic sorrow. His life was soaked in heartbreak, addiction, and broken vows. Married to the strong-willed Audrey Shepherd, Hank drifted into the arms of dancers, nurses, and anyone who could offer temporary peace. Each affair poured gasoline on their fiery arguments, some of which exploded backstage at the Opry. The heartbreak bled into his music. Your Cheatin' Heart wasn't just a song. It was part confession, part blame. As drugs and alcohol took control, Hank began missing gigs. His band left him, and the Opry gave him the boot. When he passed away in 1953 at just 29, slumped in the back seat with a cocktail of pills and booze in his system, he became a legend overnight. His pain-filled songs created a template for raw country storytelling. Later artists learned that vulnerability, real, bleeding, soul-shaking emotion, could outlive the singer. Hank's ghost still lingers in smoky bars and roadside dives, a haunting reminder that ruin, when sung right, can turn into immortality. Merle Haggard. Heartbreak, honesty, and honky-tonk confessions. Merle Haggard first glimpsed the world from behind prison bars, where music offered him a lifeline. Yet, even after freedom found him, he couldn't shake his appetite for tumultuous love stories. Across 5 marriages, he juggled overlapping romances, sometimes serenading one woman on stage while journeying cross-country with another. His second wife, fellow singer Bonnie Owens, remained in his band long after their marriage ended, harmonizing on songs that documented their own breakup, even as Merle pursued the next future Mrs. Haggard. The whirlwind of his personal life sharpened his songwriting pen. Classics like "Today I Started Loving You Again" and "That's the Way Love Goes" drip with worn-out repentance, the kind you can't fake. By living out every sinful lyric, Merle crowned himself the spiritual godfather of country's outlaw era. His life proved that being real didn't mean being perfect. It meant being painfully truthful. The blurred boundaries between muse, spouse, and bandmate became a blueprint other artists would later mimic with raw, Grammy-winning results. Even in his later years, Haggard quipped about never mastering monogamy, a joke fans embraced because it echoed the battered honesty in his voice. Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood, harmonies that hid the heat. When Garth Brooks exploded into the country music scene, he branded himself as a loyal family man from Oklahoma, but each duet with Trisha Yearwood buzzed with something more intimate than simple admiration. They first met in 1987, cutting demos by day and swapping personal dreams by night, bound by wedding bands and a promise to keep things platonic. But fame this big tests every vow. Long tours turned nightly check-ins into emotionally charged lifelines. By the late 1990s, tabloids ran wild with affair rumors, and fans examined each harmony for hidden truths. Eventually, Garth stepped away from the road, citing exhaustion, but whispers said he was choosing between patching up his marriage or chasing his soul's match. When he divorced Sandy Mall in 2001 and married Trisha 4 years later, cynics shouted, "Told you so," while diehards mailed them congratulations. The industry learned a quiet truth. Sometimes, a simmering rumor can keep 2 careers alive even through creative dry spells. Their long-awaited love story also reshaped country's romantic narrative, no longer only for the young and heartbroken, but for those craving mature, hard-earned happiness. Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton. Goodbye notes in rhinestones. When Porter Wagoner welcomed Dolly Parton onto his show in 1967, he opened the door for her superstardom, but also a partnership so emotionally loaded it felt like a weekly soap opera in rhinestones. Porter, ever the flashy showman, demanded control. Dolly, steel-willed beneath her sky-high hair, loved him but often bristled under his grip. She later admitted he broke her heart, not necessarily her marriage vows, leaving fans dissecting her lyrics for veiled hints. When Dolly tried to quit his show, Porter threatened legal action, so she penned "I Will Always Love You," a musical farewell wrapped in a legal middle finger. The song soared up the charts. Elvis wanted to record it, but Dolly refused to give up the publishing rights, a move that earned her millions. Their almost romance proved a watershed. Emotional wreckage could become generational gold, and a woman fighting for independence could still eclipse the man who tried to control her spotlight. Porter later confessed that losing her left him creatively rudderless. Meanwhile, Dolly funneled her royalties into building Dollywood, poetic justice nestled in the Smoky Mountains. Kris Kristofferson and Janis Joplin. When chaos and country collided, Kris Kristofferson arrived in Nashville armed with a Rhodes Scholarship and a helicopter license. Hardly your average honky-tonk hopeful. No one predicted that a brief, fiery affair with rock and roll hurricane Janis Joplin would launch his career. They met in 1970 at the infamous Landmark Motel in Hollywood, where poetry clashed with bourbon in nightly symphonies of destruction. Though married at the time, Kris and Janis found kindred chaos in each other. When he played Me and Bobby McGee for her, Janis demanded it, and recorded her definitive version just 3 days before her fatal overdose. The posthumous hit shot up the charts, cementing Kristofferson as a songwriting legend. Their doomed romance showed Nashville the power of crossing genre lines. Rock could be raw, dangerous, and a fertile ground for country's poetic grit. It also warned of the high cost of dancing too close to rock's self-destructive flame. Decades later, Kris still called the relationship transformative, admitting that the guilt and gratitude tangled in that song's chords pushed him to write braver, more literary lyrics through the 70s. Billy Sherrill, producer of stars, purveyor of secrets. Behind the mixing board at Columbia Studio A, Billy Sherrill crafted the emotional fireworks in Tammy Wynette's Tearjerkers and shaped the soft ache in George Jones's vocals. But his own personal entanglements often blurred the line between mentorship and manipulation. Though married, Billy was said to romance the very women he produced, with vocal warm-ups reportedly stretching into after-hours rendezvous. The industry gossiped, whispering that his lush string arrangements masked a power imbalance in the studio. Yet, artists kept lining up, because Sherrill delivered results. Songs like "Stand By Your Man" and "Till I Can Make It on My Own" took on deeper meaning once fans connected the romantic undercurrents to the man behind the board. Long before the #MeToo movement, Nashville wrestled with the same question. Does genius excuse questionable behavior? Though no formal accusations ever stuck, the cloud surrounding Billy prompted labels to draft clearer boundaries, laying early groundwork for the accountability now shaking up Music Row. His records remain timeless, but so does the warning. When intimacy and authority share a studio, the echo can last far beyond the final fade-out. Charlie Rich, a flame that burned too bright. Charlie Rich, famously dubbed the Silver Fox, made headlines for reasons beyond his music in 1975. When he was handed the honor of announcing the CMA Entertainer of the Year, he opened the envelope, saw John Denver's name, and, without hesitation, set the winner's card ablaze with a cigarette lighter live on national television. The room erupted into gasps, some laughed nervously, while executives scrambled in panic. Though Rich claimed the act was his protest against pop music encroaching into country territory, industry whispers suggested something more personal. Rumors of betrayal involving his wife Margaret and a younger crooner climbing the charts. Regardless of motive, the spectacle proved costly. Country stations dropped his records, and venues quietly backed away. This infamous moment became a harsh reminder for Nashville. When jealousy goes unchecked, it can eclipse even decades of respected artistry. The incident made clear that deeply personal resentments, when aired on public stages, can have career-ending consequences. Awards shows since have learned to script such moments with precision, knowing the explosive potential of live emotion. Rich spent his final years watching peers collect trophies from afar, a poignant reflection of how one flash of anger, whether sparked by wounded pride or alleged infidelity, can scorch a legacy in seconds. He passed away alone, shadowed by regrets. Eddie Arnold, the velvet voice, and the hidden truths. Eddie Arnold serenaded the world with his honey-smooth voice, urging fans to make the world go away, in tones soft enough for Sunday school. But behind the velvet voice was a more colorful tale, whispered along tour stops. Industry insiders often claimed Arnold, nicknamed the Snowman, maintained discreet romantic arrangements in various cities. Trusted road managers were said to book dual motel rooms under aliases to preserve his family-friendly image. Reporters who dared dig deeper into this dual life frequently found themselves cut from VIP lists and industry events. His carefully guarded image highlighted a long-standing country contradiction. Sing virtue, live vice, and trust your audience to believe the album cover. Though no scandal ever surfaced publicly, the private affairs gave his romantic ballads a haunting edge. His quiet indiscretions laid the blueprint for how future stars like Randy Travis and early career Luke Bryan would walk the tightrope between public innocence and private indulgence. Even when fans learned of the rumors, few blinked. By then, Arnold's songs had already become the backdrop to weddings and quiet moments at home. His story reinforced an uncomfortable truth. In country music, sincerity is judged by how it's sung, not how it's lived. Lefty Frizzell, velvet tones and frayed lives. Lefty Frizzell was a master of phrasing whose relaxed delivery inspired legends like Willie Nelson and George Strait. But his life beyond the microphone was anything but smooth. Perpetual touring left him aching with loneliness, and he filled the void with bar fights, affairs, and hangovers that bled into his music. His wife Alice endured the fallout, stories of waitresses and groupies, bruises and courtroom apologies. Despite the chaos, she continued to welcome him home. That pain oozed into songs like I Never Go Around Mirrors, soaked with remorse and self-inflicted sorrow. Label execs begged for sobriety, but Lefty seemed hell-bent on embodying the lyrics he wrote. Eventually, liver disease and dwindling hits forced him off the road. His legend remained intact, but his finances didn't. Frizzell became a cautionary symbol. Authentic storytelling without personal stability can destroy both career and soul. Yet young musicians still pore over his vocal stylings like sacred scripture, perhaps forgetting the wreckage behind the music. The broken marriage, the fatherhood marked by absence. His tragedy became an eternal guidebook on heartbreak etched in verse. Jeannie C. Riley and Tom T. Hall. Scandal in every rhyme. Jeannie C. Riley was barely out of her 20s when Harper Valley PTA launched her from small-town secretary to country's crown jewel. The song, penned by lyrical sharpshooter Tom T. Hall, became a cultural lightning bolt. Studio sessions found them working side by side, sharing jokes, secrets, and a spark fans couldn't ignore. Whispers of late-night writing turning into more than collaboration began circulating. Some said those quiet studio hours slid into something physical, straining Jeannie's marriage and threatening Hall's reputation as a Southern gentleman. Neither ever admitted nor denied the rumors, but the gossip proved commercially golden. The controversy drove spins, ballooned Hall's songwriting royalties, and made Riley the first woman to simultaneously top both the pop and country charts. The pairing demonstrated a potent truth. Hinted scandal could amplify a woman's voice in a genre not always eager to hand over the mic. It also predicted the modern era, where fans dissect Instagram posts for subtext and suspicion. Back then, it was liner notes and late-night interviews. Today, it's TikToks and Twitter threads. Either way, country called it first. Patty Loveless and Vince Gill. Harmony laced with temptation. In the polished country landscape of the early 1990s, Patty Loveless and Vince Gill brought something different, her Appalachian ache and his angelic tenor. Their duet, My Kind of Woman, My Kind of Man, sparked immediate speculation. Their onstage chemistry was magnetic, their glances a touch too intimate, their hugs a heartbeat too long. Both were married, but that didn't stop the tabloids from declaring it an emotional affair. A phrase still new, but enough to ignite headlines and hallway gossip. Neither relationship ended in divorce, but every future performance carried the scent of what if. Fans listened closer, read between lines, and projected their own longings onto every note. Their pairing suggested that not all affairs need proof. Some thrive in implication, and that nuance itself could become part of a performance. While the rumors eventually cooled, the music lingered. Their collaboration expanded country's emotional range, allowing space for stories of complex adult feelings amid the boot-scootin' anthems of the era. Secrets, scandals, and the soundtrack of real life. 15 secret love affairs. Dozens of broken promises. And enough emotional residue to fill a jukebox from Nashville to nowhere. Country music was never just built on steel guitars and fiddles. It was forged in the heat of forbidden desire. Behind every guitar cry is a neon-lit motel room. Behind every perfect harmony, a painful farewell echoing from someone left waiting. These stories prove that in country, it's not polish but imperfection that sells. It's confession, not silence, that creates icons. And no marketing team can replicate the raw hooks written by an untamed heart. So the next time a cheating anthem hits you right in the gut, know you're not just singing along. You're eavesdropping on the very real, very messy history of a genre built on truth, trauma, and a little bit of twang. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and click on the next story lighting up your screen.